What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, July 12th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 10 a.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Eastern Europe. So, the UK Telegraph is reporting that due to the prolongation of the Ukraine war, Putin may resort to the use of tactical nuclear weapons to break Ukraine's resistance. Putin and his entourage are seriously considering this now. Wow. And there was another large drone attack on Ukraine last night involving 597 drones and 26 missiles. And a lot of these drones and missiles hit western Ukraine close to the border of Poland. So this is the third day this week where Russia launched a massive drone attack on Ukraine. And this is all coming right after Trump announced that he's going to start flooding Ukraine with weapons and impose tough sanctions on Russia. So clearly Putin is giving Trump the finger, and he's actually stepping up the intensity of these attacks even after Trump threatens to sanction Russia and flood Ukraine with weapons. And the Wall Street Journal, citing American and Israeli officials, reported that Netanyahu informed Trump that Israel will strike Iran if it resumes its nuclear activities. And the Wall Street Journal, quoting an Israeli official, also reported that Israel will not necessarily seek American approval to resume attacking Iran. The Wall Street Journal is also citing an Israeli official who reported that Israel confirmed that some of Tehran's uranium stockpile in Isfahan survived the attack, and satellite images from Wednesday show that all three entrances to the underground tunnels at the Isfahan nuclear facility are still blocked, indicating that Iran is not yet making efforts to access the enriched uranium that is likely located there underground. So if you remember, during the strikes, the U.S. hit the Natanz facility with 2 bunker busters, I believe it was, and then a dozen bunker busters on Fordow, and then they used a few Tomahawk missiles on Isfahan, and the Iranians buried the tunnel entrances to Isfahan, and so they have not removed the dirt that's piled up on those entrances yet, which means that Iran is still concerned about follow-up strikes. Okay, so Iran definitely still has enriched uranium in Isfahan if they haven't unblocked the tunnels. And what you're looking at here is a live flight tracker showing a U.S. Navy P-8 Poseidon flying over the Black Sea. This is a sub-Hunter plane, and you can see it's been doing this huge pattern here from east to west across the entire Black Sea, and it's keeping an eye out on Russian subs and other Russian military assets here. But you could see how close it was coming to Novorossiysk and Sochi. This is very, very rare, and it could mean that Russia is planning some kind of massive attack on Ukraine in the coming hours or days. Now, also, the U.S. has deployed a high-priority reconnaissance plane to Europe. Here we have an RC-135 from Offutt Air Base, which is home of U.S. Strategic Command, that left Offutt Air Base last night after midnight Eastern Time and crossed the North Atlantic into Europe. So this is a sign that things are about to escalate in Europe. And Israel may possess up to 280 nuclear warheads, according to Turkish Admiral Kihad Yaitsi. And the Chinese Coast Guard spokesperson stated on Friday that Chinese Coast Guard vessels acting in accordance with the law took necessary control measures against a Japanese fishing boat that illegally entered China's territorial waters near Chiwei-yu on Wednesday and issued a warning for it to leave. This came after Chinese vessels entered Japan's territorial waters near the Senkaku Islands. Two Chinese government ships have entered Japan's territorial waters off the Senkaku Islands in Okinawa Prefecture in the East China Sea. The Japan Coast Guard says the vessels crossed into Japanese waters around Taisho Island within about 10 minutes of each other from around 3:47 a.m. on Wednesday. The Japan Coast Guard says the vessels tried to approach a Japanese fishing boat that was operating in the area. The Chinese vessels are equipped with cannons and were navigating about 19 to 22 kilometers southwest of Taisho Island. So this is very, very serious, guys. We have China really stepping up their aggression in the Asia-Pacific region, and they're now doing these massive exercises off the coast of Taiwan. And what you're looking at here is video footage from one of these exercises, and you can see they're practicing massive beach landings. Okay, check this out. Look at all these special amphibious troop carriers and amphibious artillery. Okay, those are self-propelled artillery pieces that are literally floating in the water. That is just totally insane. So China is preparing for war with Taiwan, war with Japan, and war with the U.S. And a U.S. nuclear-armed submarine and nuclear war command and control plane, which can issue nuclear codes to it, stopped in the Azores recently, the Navy confirmed to Newsweek. The presence of the USS Maryland, an Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine, coincided with the deployment of an E-6 Mercury capable of communicating with nuclear-armed subs. Commander Tim Gorman, U.S. 6th Fleet spokesperson, told Newsweek that the submarine in question was the USS Maryland, homeported in Kings Bay, Georgia. So we moved a nuclear-armed sub and a nuclear war command and control plane to the Azores. That is very, very unusual, and another sign that something could be escalating in Europe soon. And China has launched major naval formation training near Taiwan. China's People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater Command has commenced large-scale naval formation training at sea just across the Taiwan Strait, sending warships and aircraft into waters and airspace surrounding the island as a show of strength. Wow. And China is planning to equip submarines with underwater drone swarms designed to take out aircraft carriers. And American B-52 nuclear bombers participated in joint exercises with Japan, flying along the border of China and North Korea. So things are really escalating in Asia, guys. And Israeli officials say some of Iran's near bomb-grade enriched uranium survived recent U.S. and Israeli strikes and may be accessible to Iranian engineers despite major damage to centrifuges. Experts now assess how quickly Iran could rebuild its nuclear program. Okay, so the Israelis are concerned that it's not over, okay, and the Iranians are going to continue to enrich uranium. So they've already told Trump, hey, listen, we're going to strike, and we may not ask for your approval. Satellite images appear to show Iran's missile strike on the Al Udeid air base in Qatar destroyed a satellite communication antenna. A blackened area now marks the spot where the dome once stood, with damage also seen on a nearby hangar. This contradicts earlier claims by Qatar and the U.S. that no damage occurred. Imagery from June 23, prior to the Iranian missile attack against the base, shows the radome intact, while imagery from June 25th shows the radome destroyed, with significant damage to several other nearby buildings, likely communication and support facilities at Al Udeid. According to a release by the Air Force in January 2016, the radome contained $15 million of communications equipment known as the Modernization Enterprise Terminal, which used anti-jamming and modern technology to provide secure communication capabilities, including voice, video, and data services linking military leaders across the world with service members in the U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility. Wow. So the Iranians destroying this massive radome in the Al Udeid Air Base, and U.S. President Donald Trump will send up to $300 million in weapons to Ukraine using presidential drawdown authority, marking his first such move since returning to office. The aid may include Patriot missiles. A final decision on which weapons will be sent to Ukraine is expected after a key meeting on Thursday, sources said. That's this past Thursday. The package may include high-priority systems like Patriot missile interceptors and GMLRS rockets for HIMARS. So this is absolutely huge news, guys, and Trump is going to be making a big announcement on Monday. President Trump is preparing a major plan to sell both offensive and defensive weaponry to several allied nations in NATO, with the agreement that the weapons and other equipment will be provided to Ukraine. In a July 10th interview with NBC News, U.S. President Trump said he plans to make a major statement on Russia next week and revealed a new NATO weapons deal for Ukraine. He said he was deeply disappointed with Russia. The U.S. president revealed details of the new arms delivery scheme, saying, "We're sending weapons to NATO, and NATO pays 100% of the cost, so it goes to NATO, and NATO then passes it on to Ukraine." He noted that this agreement was reached at the NATO summit last month. The arrangement may be aimed at reducing domestic criticism over direct U.S. military aid to Ukraine. Trump also said he expects the Senate to approve a new sanctions package against Russia, which would give the president maximum flexibility in applying it. The Senate will pass a very serious and tough sanctions package, but whether or not it's enforced is up to the president, said Trump. And Germany is ready to buy 3 U.S.-made Patriot systems for Ukraine, along with missiles for them. And the U.S. on Thursday strongly condemned Russia's record-breaking attacks on Ukraine, calling it abhorrent. The escalating Russian attacks, the president has been clear they're abhorrent, State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce told the Kiev Post. "I can say to you here that we strongly condemn Russia's escalating attacks on Ukraine and extend our deepest condolences to the victims and families of those killed," she added. And the scale of Russian attacks on Ukraine resembles World War II, according to Keith Kellogg, the U.S. President's special representative for Ukraine, during the Ukraine Recovery Conference in Rome. He said these strikes are simply horrific. Schools, hospitals, residential buildings, and other civilian infrastructure are coming under fire. This leads to senseless deaths among civilians, women, children. This must stop. So Keith Kellogg finally taking a tough stance on Russia. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Russia lost 100,000 troops since January in the Ukraine war. And Russia closed the Polish consulate in Kaliningrad. That's not a good sign. And the head of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine's military Kirillo Budanov gave an interview to Bloomberg stating that about 40% of the ammo used by Russia comes from North Korea. In exchange for ammo, Russia provides North Korea with money and technology. Interesting. And the European Union should start gathering stockpiles of food and other critical supplies amid the threat of conflict, health crises, and natural disasters. This is what the chiefs of defense of the NATO countries said recently in Brussels. And now the European Commission has laid out a strategy on stockpiling critical supplies for the first time ever on Wednesday, emphasizing the need to build up stocks of things like fuel and medicine. Wow, so another sign that Europe is preparing for World War III and war with Russia. And we're now hearing that Russia is producing over 5,000 drones a month. I think the number's even a lot higher than that. And Zelensky said Ukraine's intelligence and the intelligence of Ukraine's allies have information that Putin is trying to drag out the war. He also said Russia is trying to destabilize Ukrainian society with massive drone attacks nearly every day, numbering in the several hundred number of drones. So that is very, very concerning. And Russian military channels are reporting that Ukraine is nearing the final development and production of the HRIM-2 ballistic missile comparable to ATACMS. It reportedly has a range of 200 to 500 kilometers and can carry 100 to 350 kilogram warheads, and it travels at speeds of up to 3,000 meters a second. This is a major step in Ukraine's strike capability. Wow, so a domestically produced ballistic missile similar to ATACMS or Iskanders in Ukraine. And a Russian Pantsir air defense system mistakenly engaged a civilian plane flying from Minsk to Moscow. The plane reportedly sustained minor damage and landed in Moscow. And police checkpoints have now been set up at all entries into Moscow. Trucks and buses, large and small, are being searched for drones in anticipation of another Ukrainian attack like Operation Spiderweb, which destroyed dozens of long-range bombers all across Russia. And according to Bloomberg, Ukraine blew up a key Russian gas pipeline in western Siberia located in the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug. The pipeline had an annual capacity of 2.6 billion cubic meters and supplied natural gas to defense-related enterprises in the Chelyabinsk, Orenburg, and Sverdlovsk regions. Wow. And this past week, Russia attacked a maternity hospital in the city of Kharkiv in Ukraine. And Ukraine's Minister for Strategic Industries, Alexander Kamyshin, has announced that Ukraine and the U.S. will jointly begin the production of gunpowder. An agreement has already been signed between Ukroboronprom and American defense companies, under which production facilities will be located on U.S. territory. And Iran will remain a threat to the U.S. as long as its current leaders stay in power, the Wall Street Journal wrote on Tuesday, calling for the elimination of the country's supreme leader to prevent a far more dangerous conflict in the future. And a UK parliamentary report warns Iran has made at least 15 attempts to kill or kidnap people in Britain since 2022. And a U.S. Air Force Doomsday plane recently filed a flight plan using the call sign Airwolf 84, and that's basically paying homage to the TV show Airwolf in the 80s. And U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the introduction of a 35% tariff on goods from Canada. It remains unclear which specific products will be affected. The move could mark the beginning of a new round in the trade war between the two neighboring countries. And Tucker Carlson recently said that Americans who fought for Ukraine or Israel should have their citizenship revoked. And the Maryland Army National Guard has launched an investigation into Tim Kennedy after he publicly admitted this week to lying about parts of his military service, including falsely claiming on a TV show in 2017 that he received a Bronze Star Medal with Valor. Major Benjamin Hughes, a spokesman for the Maryland National Guard, stated the Maryland National Guard takes these matters seriously. Integrity is a core value of our organization, so an investigation is currently underway to review the facts surrounding these public misstatements. And we had over 300 earthquakes around Mount Rainier yesterday, and interestingly, the USGS is hiding those earthquakes. You cannot find them on the USGS website. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. Check out my 24/7 live stream for continuous coverage and to listen to our nuclear forces. I have my own radio system here set up so you can listen to the nuclear forces all day and night. And also check out my Patreon for priority access to these updates without advertisements. I always post these updates first to Patreon before posting them to YouTube. So that's patreon.com/NYPrepper. And I will be resuming a normal live streaming schedule next week. I had to take a little bit of a break. You know, we had 4th of July weekend, and I'm still kind of in holiday mode. So I will try to resume my normal live streaming schedule next week. But until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. You can get 3 months of emergency food, 2,000 calories a day for just $500. That's $200 off their normal price with free shipping included. This food has a shelf life of 25 years, and it's a variety of different types of food. So if you use the link preparewithnyprepper.com, you can save $200 on their 3-month emergency food supply. The link is in the description below this video. That's preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video.